Hey, everybody. It's me, Carmine DeStefano, your bookman. And today is my birthday. I am now 1 year older, which means nothing to me because age is just a number. But I did remember to turn my mic over at the very beginning, the very outset of the stream. So there you go. My hair is all messed up, whatever's left of it on the top. It is a very gloomy, somewhat threatening day. It doesn't look like it's going to rain. It snowed a little bit earlier this week, which always makes me unsettled because I can't stand looking at that shit. I was walking through it. It didn't stick, but we're getting there. And that's when I become uneasy. However, I wanted to talk this week about once more one of my favorite topics, and that is art and entertainment. I'm now currently reading Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and I saw the Frankenstein movie, as some people would probably think, because I've seen a few of those. Now, I just want you all to realize that without any kind of hyperbole or exaggeration, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is one of the greatest stories ever put on paper. That's just a fact. And it seems as though people don't really understand its importance nor what it is and what it means. The truth of the matter is that you have to understand before you try to render your version of everything the context and the actual the context and the actual background of everything that's involved in a writing of some sort, in art of some sort. And really, what it comes down to is that when you look at it, Mary Shelley was 17 when she came up with that story. And she lived back in the early, not, I can't say Victorian because Queen Victoria came in much later than that in the 1800s, but right about the turn of the 19th century, the beginning of it. At that time, even though she was with a somewhat forward thinking individual that I believe was already married, she still was slated more or less to be a house servant that would pop kids out for him. And that was pretty much it. Now, he did respect her as a human being more so from what they've said, which is one of the reasons why she was able to read and write in the first place. But where she comes from, where she originates from, is what helps influence the story itself. When you read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through, what you understand is not only is Victor Frankenstein supposed to be the monster that we know that's what it's all about, but the context, what's going on here, is she is talking about society as a whole and how this ghastly creature brought back from multiple different parts of dead people could somehow show more humanity than human beings themselves. And there was a part where the servant Justine, who was very close to his cousin Elizabeth, who was half Italian, by the way, and he was slated to marry, she was framed by the murder the monster commits against Victor's little brother William. And she was accused, convicted, put in prison, sentenced to die. And Elizabeth, Victor's future wife, makes mention of what kind of people are we that a woman as innocent as Justine could be looked down upon as someone of guilt when she could never do anything like this. Like, how are we protecting the good when we destroy it so easily? And that's sort of a theme that goes on in this novel. So when you read the novel, not only do you get the sense of dread and fear and everything that Victor was feeling, that he brought to the world, to the monster, what the monster was feeling, you also get this real deep cognitive concept of what is society and what are we as people. It's very deep, and it just goes to show you that with a work of art or even an artist, because Mary Shelley, what's up there, Belia? He's back. That Mary Shelley was not, thanks for hanging out, by the way. The Mary Shelley never created anything like this again. She wrote other books that just were never like this. But I'm talking about the Frankenstein movie, as it says in the title. But we'll go into video games just a sec. I just want to get this off my chest. But this one novel really encompasses. Yeah, today's my birthday. I turned 185. No, I'm not that old. 47. But I'm getting there. I'm almost as old as Player Essence. But I'm older than a couple of the other big names. But yeah, I'm not there yet with someone say, hey, thanks, man. Appreciate it. You're the best, Maria. But when you look at this novel, you just see somebody that has such an idea, such forward thinking. Thank you so much, man. Then I go and I watch this movie, and it's Guillermo del Toro. And I don't know, Maria, what do you think of him? Because I'm not a fan of his at all. Like, the only thing he is to me is he's the Hellboy guy. That's all I know. I didn't mind those movies, the original Hellboy movies. I didn't know anything about the comics, but I don't really appreciate that somebody who's about cartoonish bullshit would do this justice, and he didn't. It was terrible. Now, the movie itself, I found to be entertaining, as I do The Matrix Reloaded. It's not good, because the whole point of the story is to talk about the monstrosities of man and your reach going beyond your grasp. But what Guillermo del Toro turned it into was about how Victor is the monster because he's an arrogant asshole, and the monster was just mistreated by him, loved by Elizabeth, who now is his brother's fiance and not half Italian, and all this other dumb shit. And it was just so ridiculously over the top. When the movie starts, you see a Marvel Cinematic Universe fight scene, and I'm going, okay, I don't think this is in the book. He also turned the monster into Deadpool. He can't die and has ridiculous regenerative skills. And the story is, well, what am I supposed to do if I can't die and I'm by myself? That's not the point of the story, okay? So you miss the point of the story. And this, once again, art, entertainment. Entertainment, yes, entertaining. Art, not at all. So you had this in your hands and you completely dump all over it. And it just makes me angry because I have novels on Kindle publishers, I mention all the time. And I would never want anyone, especially if my work was considered art, to take everything that I put together and flip it on its head. I'm surprised the Shelley estate, if there is still one available, that they're not going after him. I'm surprised English kids, must be internet types only, were saying it was a must watch. It was a complete detachment from the original idea. And it's sad because the original idea is such a great one. Now, do you have to go through every last bit of dialogue? The dialogue itself, if you wrote a screenplay based off of all of it that's in the book, would probably be a 4 or 5 hour movie at least. But you can use cinematics and motion pictures, art, to create her vision. And that's what should have happened, but it didn't. And even the Kenneth Branagh one that came out before with Robert De Niro in this mind, him playing the monster, even that one sucked. Because there shouldn't be, this was written by a woman in the 1800s. There shouldn't be any gore in it. It's just, that's not what happened. Okay, he was stealing corpses. Yes, that scared the shit out of her. And the idea of how far science would go beyond humanity was something that frightened everybody back then, especially when it came to reanimation, because these were pious Christians. Another aspect that is completely lost, especially in the United States, Christianity, the belief in something bigger than you, that the body is sacred, sacrilegious and mysticism and black arts and stuff like that. All this shit doesn't mean anything anymore. But with that in mind, the concept that men were digging out graves and taking bodies and trying to bring them back to life was something that gave her nightmares. So, or at least a nightmare era before she wrote this book. So to take that and just make it into, yeah, this over the top guy wants to have immortality despite the fact that he's in the latter stages of syphilis or whatever, all this shit that Guillermo del Toro, look, you don't take something that's timeless and universal art and then try to modernize it, especially when you are, although not basing it in the time frame of the books, which or the book, which occurred before. Really, you could say books because there were three parts to it, more or less, at least. But in the book, it takes place around the late 1700s. The movie, it's late 1800s. Whatever the case, you don't take your own stuff. This isn't Del Toro's Frankenstein. It's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And I just found it to be repulsive in that sense. Entertaining, but not art. Not by any stretch of the imagination. That is not art. That is taking somebody else's work and plagiarizing it. Speaking of, let's get to what we're really here for. So, a couple of companies are announcing their new hardware. Okay. And I've said this before, but yeah, and I'm sure you've heard me say it before, and I'm going to say it again. As an old man, I grew up during the console wars from the 80s and everything, and nothing changes. The Switch 2 is the greatest console ever made. It's going to be the greatest console ever made, unless Nintendo makes a Switch 3, which I doubt they're going to do. Everything that Sony and now Steam, everything that they're trying to accomplish is so vapid in so many different ways because you're doing the same things that dropped so many other companies either out of the console business or just out of business completely. You keep harping on the graphics and the processing power and how to integrate Steam into it, how to integrate a handheld into it. Guys, for $450, I can buy a handheld and a home console right out of the box. You can't win. It's over. Just give it up. Now, I could say just make software for it, but you don't want any Sony software. Sony software, Sony, and I kind of want to make a video about this, but Sony really destroyed the elements of entertainment in an attempt to make art. Or because it's not that they're trying to make art. They do have pretentious rich kids that want to tell their story. What they tried to do and what they accomplished for a very good portion of time was they made people believe that video games, because you can watch things happen and because the graphics were improving, that video games could be considered art and win all these awards. Now, you have to understand, Sony pays people off. They bribe people. This is why so many of their games were considered games of the year. When it comes to selling their games on day one, well, yeah, they advertise. They don't really produce that many exclusives, so you're not going to hawk on their crap. But it's released initially on at least two different consoles, PC and PlayStation. And oh, by the way, there are a lot of people that play on PC. So when you're looking in terms of the numbers, you can say, well, it sold 20 million, whatever, 10 million the first week, first day. Yeah, that's all they do. That's all Sony does. And like I said, Maria, this is what was going on in the 80s and the 90s. Look, we got 16 bits. Look, we got 32 bits. Look, we got 60. Okay, what games do you have? This is a video game entertainment industry. It is not fucking art. Wasting 9-10 years trying to make a movie that's supposed to be a video game is a waste of time, and people are tired of it. So if you release consoles, and these consoles, the Jaguar, the Neo Geo, Sega CD, they would always release these consoles, and after about day 2 or 3, you had nothing. And I already pointed this out. Aside from re-releases of The Last of Us, you had this Lost Souls Abound thing, which is a Japanese game. It was a Sony exclusive, but from Sony Japan. You had Ghost of Yotai, and that was just another Horizon Zero Dawn, God of War, another one of those games, third-person perspective. Ooh, but I'm using a sword and it looks real pretty. And these fucking people on the internet who keep making it seem like Ghost of the original one, I'm not going to try to pronounce that city, and I forgot its name, that was like this all-time great game. No, it wasn't. Okay, it was another miserable, slow third person slash whatever you want to call it. It's not hack and slash because it doesn't have that much action. That forces you to watch a movie. But the formula worked for so long because they bribed people, they bribed the academies or whatever you want to call them, and they made it seem as if this is what gaming should be. Well, the world has spoken, and Switch 2 is still breaking records. Switch 2 and Switch 1 are going to be probably two of the highest consoles, if not the two highest consoles in terms of sales of all time. And you're going to be eating shit, and that's fine. I'm glad. I don't want Sony anymore. I'm done with Sony's video game console. Their consoles are all defective. Their controllers are all made like trash. Everything about Sony sucks. Everything. And I'm talking their movies. I'm talking their hardware. I'm talking all of it. And did you see that they now announced a TV? I heard about this. I heard that people are trying to say something about Metroid Prime 4. Are you kidding? The game's not out yet. But you see what I'm saying? You see how it always becomes this, right? I'm playing Age of Imprisonment. It's another Hyrule Warriors, another Warriors game. It's fun. It's got some great new mechanics, everything like that. And I will stream it again. I'm still playing Donkey Kong Bonanza. Great game. But now Metroid Prime 4 is a problem. Now this Pokemon Pocopia thing, that's a problem. Well, it's a game card. Who gives a shit? It's a game, right? It's only 10 gigs. What happens? So you download 10 gigs. Who cares? What's the problem? Like game key cards. What's the problem? But there's this attempt to sabotage, and it's not working. Now, if in conjunction with what they're trying to do or what they act like they're trying to do, it helps Nintendo sell more, cool, go ahead, because I'm tired. Microsoft's out. Okay, they're out. They're done. Steam is not going anywhere. Okay, no one's getting the Steam Deck. Then Switch 2 has outsold the Steam Deck in like the first 2 months, and Steam Deck sold in like the first 5 years. This attempt for them to make like a home console or a home seat, yeah, whatever, dude. It's more or less just Sony, Nintendo, and Nintendo's not trying to compete. Nintendo's just winning. They're not saying they're better than Sony. They're not trying to do this thing, well, we're for, all gamers, not just so-called, like they're not saying anything. That's Sony. But of course you have these Sony assholes like IGN who are paid off by this pathetic company that can't even make a decent Marvel movie outside the ones the Marvel Cinematic Universe makes for them. And they're trying to already sabotage the games that are out. Metroid Prime 4 is not out yet. So now if Metroid Prime 4, see, like you can make it seem as if another game that's like The Last of Us is this great game because it looks realistic, whatever. Metroid Prime has never steered anyone wrong. The first Metroid Prime, great. The second one, even better. Third one, the best of them all. So now, how exactly are you trying to attempt to destroy, before Metroid Prime 4 comes out, Metroid Prime 4? So what they're trying to do, aside from sabotage for the sake of saving Sony's ass, which they had a state of play for Japan specifically, and they announced a price drop, which is still not as cheap as the Switch 2 for the download-only PlayStation 5. That's okay, though, right? Game key cards, not any good. Game key cards are Satan incarnate, but download only. And then they announced a TV or a monitor. So you can play these games. They can look even clearer. You can see how ugly these people are. It's just pathetic. Everything about it is pathetic. And now IGN tries to do their bit. Now listen, keep trying. You're failing miserably. But I appreciate the effort. It's not going to work because the world doesn't fucking care. They want to have fun. And they're only going to have fun on the Nintendo Switch 2. And now with Red Dead Redemption more or less already announced for the Switch 2, we know that there's another delay for Grand Theft Auto 6. Most likely that's coming to Switch 2. All these games now, there's no reason not to be on Switch 2. I was watching somebody play through Dispatch, And I thought it was a Switch 2 game as well. It's not. I don't give a fuck. It's a Telltale game, whether or not it's Telltale. It's just one of those things where you have, what do you call, quick time events, and you choose dialogue options, and it says so and so will remember that or whatever. I had an interest in those for a bit, mostly because I was in love with Snow White in the Fables. But aside from that, if you want to call that gaming, you go right the hell ahead. There's replay value. You did it one way one time, you try it again the next, a different way. But is there any enjoyment in it? Not really. Not unless one of these gorgeous superhero heroines take their clothes off. But whatever the case, excuse me, I was watching, like, there used to be fun in those games, or there used to be interest in those games when graphics were like dots and suddenly they looked like picture books. Now I think we've gone beyond that, but whatever. So I have to see what's going on with this IGN thing and Metroid Prime 4, but whatever the case, I don't listen to anything IGN says. They can go fuck themselves. And Sony, drop out, man. You have no chance. They're just disgusting. They're so perverse. They're so greedy. And then you bash Nintendo for that, and it still has the cheapest console. So I don't know what you're talking about. No, Nintendo's always been the best. See, that's the thing, is that this is not something new. Nintendo has been around forever. Before Sony as a company, before Microsoft as a company, there was always Nintendo. And Nintendo makes the best consoles, the best hardware. They make the most durable, at least. And of course, they make the best games. The exclusives are incredible. And they keep coming. Exclusives keep coming. Every month, we get another exclusive. And it's far better than anything Sony's produced. It's far better than anything than Microsoft's produced. It's just far better. And as I mentioned, all these other consoles, all these other games on mainstream AAA consoles, they're all coming to Switch 2 anyway. So there's really no reason, whether or not Sony thinks they have evolved gaming because of graphics, the rest of the gaming world that creates these titles, they're the ones that dictate how the industry is moving. And since the Switch 2, and I'm telling you right now, Xbox, I don't really care about. Fuck Microsoft. After this Windows 11 thing, they can go rot too. But Xbox, I always felt, if you wanted to get a cheap PC, Xbox was your better bet. Xbox was your better bet because it was more durable. Now, it had to run Windows, which is bad enough, or something like Windows, which makes it unsettling. And they did release consoles with the red rings of death. And not just any consoles, their most popular consoles. Xbox One had an issue with crashing because of the operating system. Xbox Series 1, I don't know anything about what that is. I do know that no one's buying it, especially not in Japan. Microsoft's Xbox is more or less like a Western side type of console. There was never a war between Xbox and Sony. That never happened. Now, unless you want to count PC, but PC works with Sony, so that doesn't really count. Microsoft had one successful console. It was the 360. That was it. And by successful, I mean, I think it sold as many consoles as the Nintendo. Oh, yeah, that was, they said that about Steam Deck. They said about Steam Deck that it was going to beat out the Switch One. In fact, IGN, I believe, had an article saying that it would stop the sales of Switch. It did. It didn't stop anything. The rocks, you see, like that, for instance, goes to show you that the Asus Ally, whatever, that goes to show you how displaced from reality the internet is. Because influencers are rich. None of them are poor. None of them came from nothing. Just making good videos, whatever that means. Who knows that you're making these good videos? You have to have the subscribers. And YouTube works with that too. If you're doing pretty well, if people are watching your videos, if they're finding you, YouTube will give you some fake subscribers, which is why when you get to a certain point, if they're not watching you anymore, you'll see the subscribers start. Because who the hell goes about their business and goes, hey, you know what? I'm going to unsubscribe. Now, I have a few channels, but we're talking channels that are like millions of subscribers. They don't need my ass. So to them, a $1,000 handheld that kind of works with their PC gaming is no big deal. It's a big deal, and no one's going to buy it. Sorry to tell you. Steam Deck was about $450 when it was first released. Before the OLED, before the 600 gig one or whatever, nobody bought it because no one's paying that much for a handheld. And it just goes to show you how fucking moronic these people are. Switch 2 is not a handheld. Switch 1 Lite is a handheld. The Switch 1 is not a handheld. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. It's $1,000 for a hand. It's a handheld. It can work with your PC, but it is a handheld. I don't have to work with a PC. I don't need a $5,000 PC Alienware with the clear box and I could see all the colors. I don't need that to play the Switch 2, which, by the way, runs on 4K, 120 frames if necessary, 60 frames for the most part. Age of imprisonment, this little puppy right here, which is on an SD card, completely on an SD card. It's not a game key card, which is, there's really nothing wrong with that. Street Fighter 6 is on a game key card. I'm not, dying of like high cholesterol because of it. It's downloaded a lot on my hard drive. All right. I still have like 90 gigs on my hard drive. And I have a lot. Really, Overwatch 2 is taking up a lot of memory. That's really what it is. If I got rid of Overwatch 2, I'd probably lose at least 50 gigs. But my friend loves playing it. So I play with him on Thursday nights. But it's Overwatch 2, by the way. But all these other consoles and everything, they're just way too fucking expensive and they don't offer any games. Why would you spend that much money on something that doesn't offer games? That's the point. You got to have the games. So Microsoft never competed with Sony. Microsoft never competed with Nintendo. Microsoft competed with itself. It was never winning a console war. The console war was Sony trying to wipe out everybody. And they can't do it because their games suck. And now people, especially with Death Stranding, which, by the way, Disney Plus is going to make that into a show. Death fucking Stranding. Okay? This is what I'm talking about. This is how insanity can supersede sense. Death Stranding. Death Stranding should have been completely destroyed. People should have looked at that ugly, disgusting ass pile of shit and said, no, we're done. Metal Gear Solid was bad enough. That shit, where a man's running around with a plastic container of a baby that's stillborn, kind of, but the mother is in a coma, whatever the fuck stupid ass Hideo Kojima shit that he inserted himself into when he was doing Konami games that he just inherited through his own insanity needs to go. It needs to go. Death Stranding 2 came and went. Nobody gave a shit. They tried to make it like it was this great game. It's fucking moronic. Well, they are. They are. They keep updating everything. Nintendo's always been about couch co-op. They've integrated online, but it's always about playing with somebody look, you want to know how Switch 2 is going to take over? Yeah, no, I'm still I heard that you can use a camera for it. Doesn't have to be a Nintendo camera. That I went like, what? But I heard that you can just use like a camera for it. But I'm telling you right now, you don't have to listen to me. But I'm telling you right now, what is going to put an end to all this? Duskbloods. The Duskbloods is going to put an end to all this shit. Because that is a Switch 2 exclusive. For now. I don't know if that's going to stay that way forever. But for now, that is a Switch 2 exclusive. And people are nuts for From Software games. So there are a lot of big channels, as I mentioned before, that are going to have to get a Switch 2 specifically for that. That's going to sell at least 10 or maybe 15 million more consoles. No doubt. And I don't mean just in Japan. That the fact that Capcom is going balls in as well as Squaresoft for I don't know why people are into them, but whatever. They're all going like head first. Yeah, no, I don't want to try that out. Everyone's going head first into Switch 2 development. Head first. Like the big Japanese companies. Because they know you have to look at the market, guys. We're not, this isn't opening day. This is now we're like deep into the season. And all of these companies are getting involved because they know. They know who's winning the so-called console wars, which, as I've said, Nintendo was never trying to be a part of. Sony brought them into that because that's what Sony does. They try to act like they can win. Sony is so displaced from reality. They really are. It's one of the reasons why they're so bad at what they do. They think they rule the world. So they don't. They have a bunch of online geeks speaking in their honor. But, oh, it's going to be good. I'm sure it's going to be good. Night Rain is the predecessor. This one's going to be a lot different. It's going to be kind of the same concept. Elden Ring, yeah, Elden Ring is going to be. The fact that they're delaying a release of Elden Ring, who knows if they won't have Night Rain involved in it, like that you can buy it afterwards or whatever. Who knows if they won't have that. But yeah, I've been looking forward to that. I don't know why. I love From Software games that Miyazaki directs for the most part, despite the fact that they make me get even bolder and scream louder than usual. But Dustblood's going to be really good. It's going to be really interesting. And I appreciate how they're going to Industrial Age because they've done Victorian. So let's move forward. And we're getting closer to that modern day From Software game. And who the hell knows, man? Who knows what implications? Nintendo is pretty much gathering all of these sub companies that sort of like transition games over to different consoles and not the companies themselves. People mention again Stellar Blade, don't care. Bayonetta is better. And it's pretty much, I know somebody said, well, it's more like from software games, whatever. Yeah, that doesn't impress me anymore. That doesn't make me anymore. Look, only Miyazaki can get From Software games right, okay? Even From Software games without him don't get it right. So trying to copy that, I've played games that try to copy that. Most of them suck because they're just lots of enemies, and they come, and you have very limited defense. I don't care about the key card. I've already pre-ordered it. And I'm going to go complete the full purchase next Wednesday. So I'll have it paid in full. This way, when I go there to pick it up, I'm just going to pick it up. I don't care if it's key card. Don't care. It's the game, right? That's my question. Is it the game? Because if it's the game, that's one of the reasons why I want to get a 516 gig. Yeah, no, that's going to be amazing. It's one of the reasons why I want to get a 512 gig. I really want to get a 1 terabyte key card or SD card for the Switch 2, but they're like $300. Fuck that. I want to get a 512 gig because I want to be able to. Once I get rid of Street Fighter 6, there'll be a lot more room on my console. Like I said, I'm still at like 90, and I've got some shit on there. Like it's not like I got nothing. I've got a lot of titles, but yeah, no, that's it with these video games, man. You're trying so hard and it's working against you, and that's fine because good. Sony needs to go. Try to make your shitty movies, make your shitty TVs, make your shitty computers, make whatever. Stop making games and stop making consoles. You're terrible at it. Steam Deck, nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your CPU. Nobody cares about you. Go away. Just let Nintendo do its thing. The world will be a better place. Oh, and by the way, one last thing before I get out of here and do my research, fall asleep probably, and celebrate my birthday. The idea that the internet has about what a great player is makes me want to shoot you all with a crossbow. Maybe not in a vital place. I just want to shoot you with a crossbow because you don't know what you're fucking talking about. Okay? Most of you are geeks and you never competed a day in your useless lives. So, right. And that's like I said, you have consoles that Microsoft and Sony released that are download only. Steam Deck is download only. Not a problem. Who has a hybrid that you can put SD cards with the entirety of the game on them other than Nintendo? Nobody. Nobody has a hybrid, period. And yet, instead of it being, yay, Nintendo, you saved us money, you gave us something great, they're greedy, they're evil, which, by the way, is dying. There's only one more numbnut that's still doing this dumb shit about how they despise Nintendo, this, that, and the other thing, because it's lost steam. Because now that everyone knows it's the fastest selling console ever, by far, they're eating crow. The analytics don't work in their favor anymore. So now they have to take it up the ass. And they need to shut the fuck up. But there's one that's still holding out, saying it's the worst, fastest selling. No, Dick, it's the greatest console of all time. You're just an idiot, and you're still trying to make money off that, making you pathetic. So you're a pathetic idiot. So like I was saying, you kids don't know how to play competitive games. You suck at them. You don't know anything about competition or sports. Do not try to compare players from the past to players now. The players from the past were a million times better than the players now. There's also a whole bunch of gambling going on that's been exposed, including the network that presents the news to it, who, by the way, has a gambling application in their honor. Funny how they're involved in throwing games, shaving points, all this other shit. So you're not even legitimate by any stretch of the imagination. Your players are shit. They're too brittle. They don't know what they're doing. They're all about their stupid ass stats. Like when I play Overwatch 2 and I'm fulfilling my role while my teammates are running off doing their own thing, trying to get kills or eliminations and damage. You don't know how to compete. You don't know how to play as a team. You don't know how to play as a teammate. You don't know how to sacrifice. You don't know how to do anything. So when I'm saying that, I know it's hard to argue in favor of a fat fucking wannabe catcher called Cal Raleigh who hit a bunch of home runs to win an MVP, but the MVP should not have been Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge every year is on a stacked team. They suck because he sucks. If he wasn't a choking dog loser who couldn't play defense or run the bases or do what's necessary, like for instance, you're the leader of the team. You own the franchise. The only reason why this pile of shit, Anthony Volpe, Dreamcast guy, I don't watch his shit. I've heard of what he does. I don't watch him. But I'm not sure what he's been saying. I'm pretty sure it's negative. Look, there was a period of time, Billy, that I couldn't scroll on my homepage without seeing a million videos that were just negative fucking Nintendo videos. The 10 million sold started shutting people up quickly, even people that were negative. So he needs, if he's still doing his thing, he needs to grow up and move on. You liked the Dreamcast. Your name is the Dreamcast guy. The Dreamcast had a terrible controller. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, because he's a Sega guy. Nintendo beat Sega years ago. Destroyed Sega. Knocked them out of the ballpark. They tried too. We got better graphics. And now Sega makes games for Nintendo. In fact, the Shin Megami Tensei series, which is Sega and Atlas, was specifically Nintendo exclusives except for a few titles. And that included 5. Originally 5, which was far superior to Vengeance. 5 originally was a Nintendo exclusive. So he's just still bitter about that. Tough shit. You got to grow up. Got to get over it. Sega has pretty good games. Sega was interesting in the sense that they would say, yeah, we didn't make Final Fight. We didn't make Street Fighter. We didn't make Contra or any of these games, but we'll just steal from them. We'll make games like them. Yeah. No, I'm not listening to anybody who has Dreamcast in their name. Dreamcast was a garbage console. I played it. It was a garbage console. Had good ideas, nice graphics, no games, and the controllers were terrible. But like I was saying, when you're Judge, who can keep Volpe in the lineup, you say, I'm the run producer, I'll back cleanup. That's it. That's all you got to do. Back cleanup. Stop batting second. Stop being a pussy. Stop making everyone else support you. You support them. No, he won't do that. Make all your plays, especially in the playoffs when it's 0-0. He's a fucking loser. So don't tell me he's valuable when their best records were during seasons he missed 60 games. And don't tell me he's valuable when he hits 600 in the postseason and you don't win. So I'm tired of that. I'm just tired of that. And for God's sakes, folks, stop giving me this Kobe, Jordan, LeBron shit. All right, these guys, Michael Jordan killed sports and basketball. Kobe Bryant helped it rot, and LeBron James is dancing on the rotten corpse. Okay, that's all it is. And everybody since then has been shit. Get over it. Okay. But anyway, so that's it for today. I thank you, Bilia, for being here, for being supportive as always. You're the best. You're the best. And I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my birthday. And I will be back on next week with more. I am still considering making videos. I'm going to see what I'm going to do. I have a lot of ideas, but I have to put them together. So till next time, folks, we'll see you then.